This is the second training video for the CARE program for Lesson 2, which is goal setting. Um, just a quick reminder that if you do need any additional materials or anything else to carry out the CARE program, you can find all of those materials here at our website, which is www.stoppingstressinschool.com. Before we jump into Lesson 2 and kind of walking through that, I just want to direct your attention to the teacher manual. The Lesson 2 lesson plan here has some fantastic information here at the very beginning to help you prepare for the lesson. It's got the lesson overview, the student objectives, what objectives that are in the student workbook. It's what they see. And then the part you should pay most attention to, here are the materials that you will need. So the required materials for Lesson 2 are those student workbooks that students started working out of last week. Make sure they have those. That self-monitoring worksheet that students have been using to self-monitor their identified situation every day, make sure you have that handy. And then also you're going to need the calm breathing script, which you can find in Appendix A of this teacher manual. So if you scroll down to the bottom, it should be there. We are going to teach a relaxation strategy today called calm breathing, and you're going to use that script to walk students through a practice. So make sure you either have that printed out or that page tagged in your teacher manual so that you can get to that quickly and easily. Again, if you want to use the PowerPoints to walk students through the lesson, that is an option. However, it is definitely not required, so that's one of the optional materials there. Okay, so to start Lesson 2, we're going to begin with a little bit of review. So we're going to end up doing this for each lesson throughout the CARE program, but we're going to start with reviewing that self-monitoring sheet. So have students put that in front of them. Hopefully by this point they have 4 to 5 days filled in where they've monitored that their identified situation. So we would expect that at this point we should probably won't have seen any major change in that right now, and that's okay. And you can remind students that that's okay. We have 12 more weeks of the program that they're going to be working through. But go ahead and praise students for self-monitoring. If for some reason a student didn't self-monitor, just encourage them to do it in the coming week. If a student did record a significant change for whatever reason, you can prompt the student to reflect on what might have caused that change. Next, we're going to go ahead and review the Lesson 1 homework. So just as a reminder, Lesson 1 homework asks students to list out classes and then write down how that class made them feel. So you don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this review. You might just have each student share a class that makes them happy, and then have each student share a class that makes them bored before moving on. And you can tell students that we're going to be talking about emotions and feelings the first couple weeks here, and so that was kind of the point of that Lesson 1 homework. Okay, so once all that review is done, we're going to get into the meat of Lesson 2. And I'm going to use the PowerPoint to walk us through, there we go, all of the different components to Lesson 2. So first, let's just very briefly review lesson goals. In Lesson 2, we're going to learn what short and long-term goals are. We're going to learn the importance of relaxation skills, and then we're going to practice calm breathing. So this is the first page of that Lesson 2 for students in their workbooks. It's on page 10, and it just introduces the concept of goals. And we do use a sports analogy here to help students kind of connect what a goal is and how it can apply to their life. We've got a definition of goals right over here. So either you can read through this or you can have students take turns reading through this, but make sure we cover the concept of goals. You can have students share their own experience with setting goals. If they've ever set a goal before, what was it for? Did they find it helpful? And then the next part here, this is also on page 10 of that student workbook, has what we kind of consider our goal setting formula. So it's the three major parts of a goal. First part is a goal usually starts with the words I will. Second part is it says what you want to do. And then finally, you're going to set a time for when you want to reach that goal. So an example of a goal might be I will get 100% on my spelling test by the end of the year. Oops. I've got the I will, I have what I want to do, and I have when I want to do it by. The next page, which would be page 11, introduces the concept of a short-term goal and a long-term goal. So first you're going to want to go ahead and go through the definitions for each of these. A short-term goal is something that can be met, a goal that can be met in a short amount of time, usually a day, maybe a week. And so you can tell students that when you set a short-term goal, something that doesn't take you very long to achieve, it can make you feel good because it makes you feel like you've made progress in a short amount of time. And those are good goals to set. And then you can tell students that we also have long-term goals, which is a big goal that you work towards over a long period of time. And these take longer to meet. So usually these are a month or more, would make them a long-term goal. And so you can tell students that that self-monitoring sheet that they're filling out every week on their identified situation, the one they want to get better at handling, that would be kind of an example of a long-term goal because it's something that we're not expecting them to just fix in a week or two. We know that this might take weeks or maybe even months to get better at, but we're going to keep working at it to try and improve. So that's an example of a long-term goal. And then at the very bottom of that page, there's just a quick little practice for students to identify the difference between a short and long-term goal. So you can just have them go through, read the example of a goal, and then tell if it's a short-term or long-term goal. And your answers, if you need them, are in the teacher manual. Okay, so next, go ahead and prompt students to look on page 12 of the student workbook and explain to students that we're going to start setting short-term goals after every lesson. So starting with lesson 3, we're going to be setting a short-term goal to practice the skills and the tools that we are learning in the CARE program. So that's going to help make us successful. So on page 12, there is an example of what that page is going to look like in their workbook. So this is not something that they have to fill out during lesson 2. They don't have to fill this out during your current lesson. This is just to prepare them for lesson 3 for next week. So we just wanted students to be able to know what that's going to look like so they can kind of envision that in their head. So you can tell them here is where they'll actually write their goal. We've got a couple lines here where they can write the goal to practice some kind of strategy, some kind of tool that we've covered in the CARE lesson, preferably within the lesson that they just went through. And we're going to use that goal setting formula where we say I will, what we want to do, and by when. And then we're going to have students write down a couple of steps that they can take to reach their goal. So you can talk about maybe things that students can do that will make it more likely for that goal to be successful. And then this very bottom part here underneath the dotted line, this is for students to fill out after they've taken some time to work towards that goal. So usually we'll fill this top part out at the end of, like, let's say lesson 3, and then at the beginning of lesson 4, they'll go back to this page and then they'll reflect on, did I meet this goal or not? Because we want to make sure that we're not just setting goals and then kind of forgetting that we had them. We don't want to set them and move on and never touch on them again. We want to set them one week and then the week after make sure we're reflecting to see if students had made progress towards that goal. So after you show students the example of the short-term goals, we are going to switch gears a little bit and talk about relaxation skills. So we wanted to make sure that within the CARE program, we are teaching students relaxation skills that they can use. And so this is actually on, I think it's page 13 of the student workbook. And, excuse me, and it's just going to provide students with a little bit of information on what a relaxation skill is, and let them know that this week we're going to learn something called calm breathing, and then next week they're going to learn a strategy called muscle relaxation. And we've got kind of like the top 5 things to know about relaxation skills, so please read through these with students. Like I said, either you can read it out loud or you can have students take turns reading those. And the one thing that I would really emphasize, or a couple of things I guess that I would really emphasize about the relaxation skills is this number 2 here. Remind students that and really emphasize to students that if they practice these relaxation skills when they're calm, it's going to be easier to use them if they start feeling upset or angry or worried or sad. If they wait to practice them until they're feeling bad, it's going to be a lot harder for them to use those skills effectively. So that's why we're going to spend so much time practicing them throughout the CARE program. And then finally, also really emphasize that sometimes that relaxation skills might be really hard at first. Students might find them kind of weird. They might find it a little uncomfortable. They might not see the point in doing them, but really encourage students to give the relaxation skills a chance, to do their very best, and to keep doing their very best for a while, and because these are good strategies that can really help them if they give them the chance. Okay, and so then the next page here goes through the steps for our first relaxation strategy, which is calm breathing, and this is on page 14 of the student workbook. And for this page here, the purpose is to show students the 4 steps of calm breathing. So you want to make sure as you read through this that you're modeling these steps for students and maybe kind of having them follow along so that they know what it looks like. And then after you've modeled this for students, after they understand what the steps to calm breathing are, you're actually going to then pull out that calm breathing script from Appendix A that we talked about at the beginning. I'm going to have to scroll down to the bottom here. There we go. We have our calm breathing script, and you're going to want to go ahead and use this script with students so they have the opportunity to practice. Now, we do have this written out as an actual script. You do not have to read it word for word if you do not want to, although you absolutely can if you want. We want this to sound really natural for students, so if you need to kind of rephrase things to make it more natural for you, that's perfectly fine. Really the important part here is to emphasize that calm breathing can help us when we are anxious, when we are sad, when we are angry, and it can help our bodies relax, and that it's really important for us to practice this when we're calm. And then the other important part here would be the actual practice. And so what we want to do is we want to try it and get students to practice breathing in through their nose, holding it briefly, and breathing out through their mouth. And we want to do this about 10 times so that they have the chance to practice that pattern and to really give their bodies a chance to relax through this exercise. And some students find it really helpful to sit in a chair. Some students find it really helpful to lay on the floor. Both are fine, so whatever works best for your setting and the students that you have. And then again, it also might be helpful to dim the lights just to kind of get students in that place of calm. But again, that is just a suggestion. I recommend that you do what is best for your setting and your students. Okay, so once the calm breathing practice is over, we are about through. The very final steps here would be to review the Lesson 2 homework quickly. So the Lesson 2 homework has 6 boxes. I've got an example of 2 boxes here where students are going to draw a face representing each emotion in the box below, because next week in Lesson 3 we're going to be talking about emotions, and so this is kind of prep for the next lesson, so you can have students draw their faces there. And then Also, make sure you are sending home those parent letters so we're keeping parents in the loop about what's going on. If you notice in your packet, you should have a parent letter there. And then there also should be a page that has the how to do calm breathing from the student workbook, because one of the recommendations that we will have for parents is to practice calm breathing with their student every day. Since it's pretty short, it's not too intrusive of a task, but we did want to make sure that if we were recommending to parents on using calm breathing, to send home a kind of instruction sheet on what that is and what that looks like. So make sure those go home with students. And that is all for lesson 2.